Hare Krishna. On the sacred occasion of Narsimha Chaturdashi, let's contemplate on the speciality of this extraordinary form of the Supreme Lord. Lord Narsimha Dev is half man, half lion and full God. Narsimha, as his name means, man and lion. Now, there is a specific historical reason why the Lord manifested in this particular form, and that we know from the pastime of Narsimha Dev as given in the Bhagavad Puran, the Vishnu Puran, the Narsimha Puran, other Puranas, was to ingeniously work his way around the benediction that Hiranyakashipu had extracted from Brahma about not being killed by any of the 8.4 million species. So the Lord appeared in this extraordinary form, Adrushta Purvam, so a form which had never been seen before. So that is the specific contextual or historical reason why the Lord appeared in this form. But in this talk I would like to focus on the philosophical significance of this form. So normally their God is conceived of in different ways, in different traditions. Now, though God is conceived of differently, usually the word God is associated with the word good, and that means God is considered as the supremely good being, and because he is supremely good, so he is all auspicious. So he is supremely benevolent, and whatever way God is conceptualized, God is envisioned, God is revealed, the point is that he is considered to be a very loving being, a gentle, kind, loving being. And yet we have Narsimha Dev over here, who is in a ferocious form, who is in a form that would well be considered brutal. We have his teeth, fangs coming out of his mouth, and the Bhagavatam itself describes in the 7th canto, 9th chapter that, in the 7th canto, the 8th chapter describes the appearance of Lord Narsimha Dev and his fight with Hiranyakashipu and his defeating of Hiranyakashipu, and the 9th chapter describes the prayers that he receives from Prahlad Maharaj. So the description of the form of Lord Narsimha Dev comes in both the 8th chapter and the 9th chapter, and there it is described that his tongue was moving like a sword and his eyes were so ferociously blazing that they seem to have stolen the effulgence of the celestial objects, the stars and the sun in the sky. And he was frowning, and he was roaring, and his roar was so thunderous that even the elephants closed their eyes and fled away. And normally speaking, when a person is fighting, when two warriors are fighting, it's quite natural that both of them may make gestures and sounds to express their strength and to try to intimidate their opponent. But usually an opponent would not get intimidated, or at least would not show signs of having been intimidated. And Hiranyakashipu was the king of demons. He was in his own palace, surrounded by his servants, his assistants, people for whom he was the commander, and he had commanded them almost like he was God. So amid such people, for Hiranyakashipu, who to actually show fear would have been most unbecoming, and it would have been a matter of great insult for him if his own followers saw him being afraid. And yet the roar of Narsimha Dev was so ferocious, so thunderous, that even Hiranyakashipu closed his eyes momentarily in fear. What is this sound? I can't bear it. Such was the thunderous roar of Narsimha. So, in every way, with his ferocious fangs, with his ferocious jaws, so he had his fangs and his fangs and jaws and claws and mm, thunderous sound and furious eyes and a blazing seeming mane. So it was a awe-inspiring, terror-inducing form. And the question, Naham bibemya jitte ati bhayanakasya. So now such a form would be ferocious. And normally the question would come up, how can anyone consider such a form to be that of God? How can anyone consider such a form to be worshipable? Indeed, to be considered divine. In fact, in the early days of the Krishna consciousness movement, when people in the West were unfamiliar entirely with Krishna consciousness, with the Vedic tradition, with the Vaishnava tradition. And so when some of the people in the West saw the form of Narsimha which was being worshipped, then in one of the court cases against ISKCON, the idea was that ISKCON was a brainwashing movement, it was a cult. So one of the notions that was made, argument that was made against ISKCON was that they worship such a ghastly form of God. And not only is Narsimha considered to be so is such a ferocious pose, having such a ferocious form, but further he actually does a ferocious deed. And what is that? He rips apart the intestines of the belly of Hiranyakashipu, and then not only does he rip it apart, now yes, this killing is a fact of war, but killing can also happen in less or more gruesome ways. So shooting and killing someone is one way of killing. Just poisoning is a little less less gruesome way of killing. Chopping off the head is a even more gruesome way of killing. And ripping open the stomach is among the most gruesome ways of killing someone. Generally speaking, even when the head is cut off, then just a rush of blood comes out from the body as it's decapitated. But in the belly is the area where the largest quantity of flesh and blood vessels and everything is concentrated at one place. And when that belly is ripped apart, not only is the blood comes out, but there is intestine and the whole ghastliness of the action of killing comes out very vividly, very graphically, very we could say disconcertingly, when sometimes is killed. Even when a person is stabbed in the stomach, at that time a lot of blood comes out. But when a person's belly is ripped apart, at that time the extent of the blood that will come out and the ghastliness of the side that emerges, it's distasteful at the very least, horrendous at the worst. And not only did Narsimha rip apart the stomach of Hiranyakashipu, but after ripping apart that stomach, he actually took out his intestines. Now, ripping out the intestines from the body of someone, this would almost seem like a Rakshasa activity. No, it's not that so cannibals might do something like this, taking out the intestines of someone, and further, not only taking out the intestines, Hiranyakashipu's intestines were taken out by Narsimha and then put as a garland around his body, around his neck. Now, what kind of creature is this? We may think that, we may raise this question, what kind of creature is this who puts a garland of an intestine? Shiva as Bhairavanath, as Bhutanath, or Kali, they put a garland of skull. Now skull itself is ghastly enough, but intestines, it is ghastlier still. And not only this intestines, but intestines that have just been ripped out of the body. So the intestines are actually still blood is dripping out of them. And who would put an intestine like that on one's head? I think this is the sign of a barbaric, cannibal-like person. So who would do something like this? And why would anyone consider such a person who does something like this to be God? So naturally, this question will come in the mind of a thinking person. And the answer lies in understanding the complete glory of God. God, if we look at the way it's explained in the great theistic traditions of the world, it's understood that He is the source of everything. The source of everything means that all attractive things all things come from Him. And if all things come from Him, then we have to understand that even the things that look attractive and even the things that look attractive in an unattractive way, they also come from Him. Attractive in an unattractive way means that, as I say, that when there is violence, when there is brutality, that to many people is not attractive. It might seem repulsive, but yet there is a certain perverse sense of attraction even to that. And that's why when there are images of, say, earthquakes or natural calamity that cause great destruction, although it's a sobering, shattering sight sometimes, still people want to see it. So that it's attractive in a distorted sort of way, but still it's attractive in its own way. And the point is that the Vedic scriptures describe that the greatness of God is not partial, it is all round. So all round greatness of God means that He is attractive, not just in the sense that we consider normally attractive, but also attractive in various senses. And that means also attractive in His destructive manifestation. So the gruesomeness of the form and activities of Narsimha are from the philosophical point of view indicative of His complete greatness, of His all-round greatness. That He is attractive not just in an attractive way, but He is attractive also in a destructive way, in what we could say, for some it might feel a distasteful way, but all His attraction is complete. So awesome displays of power which cause destruction are also attractive in their own way, and such is the attractiveness that the Lord manifests in this particular form. Now, it's not just that Narsimha is manifesting this form to illustrate the completeness of His greatness. The form of Narsimha also urges us to look beyond appearance to substance, to look beyond. So some people may say, yes, Narsimha, oh, there's a bloody intestine around, and what kind of God is this? I can't worship. But if it goes beyond the appearance, not going beyond the appearance in the sense of minimizing the appearance, but trying to understand the rationale underlying that appearance. Then when one does that, when one understands that the rationale is love, and that rationale is love means that Lord Narsimha is considering that my devotee Prahlad has been threatened and tormented and almost executed by this brutal Hiranyakashipu, and no one else came to protect him. Even the Devatas who offer prayers to me did not do anything either to protect him or even protest against his persecution. And that's why he's furious. He's furious at the attacks, assassination attempts against his beloved devotee, and he's furious at the abortiveness exhibited by all those who could have protested or protected him. But because none of them do that, he himself manifests. So that's why Narsimha form reveals his love for his devotee Prahlad. And So now we could say that Narsimhadeva's appearance and actions reflect his protecting tendency, his protecting nature. But at the same time, his appearance in this particular form demonstrates how he exhibits his love not just for the immediate devotee under protection to be protected, but also for this devotee who had given his word. So Brahmaji had given a word to Hiranyakashipu, and Lord Vishnu, who manifested as Lord Narsimhadev, wanted to honor that word. And thus, it is his Bhakta Vatsalya that is manifested. It is his Bhakta Vatsalya that is manifested in the ferociousness of the form, and it is Bhakta Vatsalya that is manifested in the specific rationale for that form. So it is because the Lord is bound by such love that he is unable to do anything except come in a form that will fulfill the devotee's heart and fulfill the mission of redemption that he has come to descend in this world. So Lord Narsimhadev is half man, half lion, half man, and full God. What does that mean? It means he is manifested in a form that is Narsimha Vapuh, Shriman Narsimha Vapuh. That is one of the names of Narsimhadev. Is half man, half lion, and his form is like that. But along with that, Narsimhadev also is the full power of divinity. So there is that thunderbolt of Indra, which is capable of one strike reducing mountains to piles of rubble. That same thunderbolt, when cast by Indra at Hiranyakashipu, that thunderbolt could not even make one scratch on the body of Hiranyakashipu. And yet that body, which remained unscratched even after the assault of Indra's thunderbolt, that weapon was more, that body which could withstand an attack, that body could not withstand the attack of simply the nails of Narsimhadev. So the nails of Narsimhadev are more powerful than even the Vajra Astra of Indra. And in this way, the greatness of the Supreme Lord's power is manifested in this pastime through the Lord appearing in this particular form and then exhibiting unparalleled power for the sake of protecting his devotees. Specifically his devotee Prahlad Maharaj, and also for other devotees playing in this, participating in pastimes in this particular world and withstanding dangers. Those of us who may face these dangers, we may not know what form the dangers may come in. We may not know what form the Lord will come to rescue us. But we should know that just as whatever be the complex conditions and complex obstacles that might be there in the path, just as the path of Prahlad Maharaj's safety, the path for overcoming the benedictions that Hiranyakashipu had got from Brahma, the way to get an exception from around them seemed nearly impossible, but Narsimhadev found a way around, and that way around was that he appeared in the form of half man, half lion, and thus he actually managed to protect Prahlad. So essentially, when we recognize the beauty of it all, don't just look at the ghastliness of the form, but look at the beauty of the love that is there in the heart. So whether we look at the love of the Lord in manifesting in this particular form, the love of the Lord in manifesting this form with such ferocious expressions that it will terrorize all those who want to terrorize his devotees. And this way Narsimhadev is the icon of protection, of divine protection. And we can pray to him to protect us from our selfish desires and to help us attain right supreme destination. Thank you.